Don't adjust your screen. You're about to start a mystical journey into the fringes of reality as you know it. Today, we're diving into the life of a guy who's not only a wizard with hypnotic tricks, but also a captivating entertainer with a knack for design, and one pretty small roommate. Join me as I pull back the curtains and reveal the mysterious world of Hypno-potamus. Hypno-potamus was a character created by the team behind the Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show in 2018. Kiwi actor Rhys Darby voiced the character, and when I say Kiwi, I mean that he comes from New Zealand, which happens to be the country where this channel's from. In New Zealand, we use the word Kiwi for many things, like a bird, a fruit, a currency, or people. You might recognize Rhys's voice from Our Flag Means Death, Voltron Legendary Defender, or the hilarious Flight of the Conchords. I couldn't figure if the character's accent was a decision that took place before or after casting Rhys for the role. The only thing I know for sure is that there are no hippopotamuses in New Zealand outside of zoos, so I feel like the character was created before being cast. The character debuted in the episode Newsworthy, which also introduced Warren Stone and was written by Jesse Gordon. Hypno was originally a hypnotist known as Mezmer-Ron, and he had a hippopotamus magical assistant named Doug. But one day, a mosquito bit Mezmer-Ron, turning him into Hypno-potamus. Unfortunately, and for reasons that were never properly explained, Doug died. His assistant's death would influence his journey into the mystical arts and his need to fill the void with another partner. Immediately after his mutation, Hypno started terrorizing local magicians and stealing their trick animals. The Turtles, who were trying to find all the new mutants, were searching for him, which made another villain, Warren Stone, jealous, as he considered himself their worst enemy. When the Turtles went against Hypno, he used his hypnotic Mezmer-Ron to hypnotize them. He was ready to kill them all, but Warren wanted to be the one to do that, so he fought against Hypno, and with the help of his magic gem, he sent the Mezmer-Ron back to Hypno, making him fall into his own trance. In his next captivating appearance, Hypno-potamus turned green with envy over the rising fame of a young magician, Noah Sheck. Crafting a devious plan, he created Hippo Crush, a hypnotizing mobile game that took over the minds of some high school students, turning them into his unwilling pawns. This coincided with April's homecoming ball, which she would have usually avoided. But this time around, she was invited by the most popular girl at the school to sit at the cool kids table. Unfortunately for her, everyone was acting a little zombie once there, and the popular girl insisted everyone install the game. April tried to install it, but couldn't, because Donnie had installed an anti-malware program on her phone. She pretended to install it and followed everyone to the school's auditorium. Her mystical pet, Mayhem, tried to warn her about the reality of the situation. After being ignored, he decided to warn the Turtles. April realized everyone was hypnotized a little too late. Chaos unfolded as April attempted to flee, only to be cornered by Hypno's hypnotized horde. The Turtles, alerted by Mayhem, leapt into action. However, they were initially clueless about the bizarre situation they'd dived into. April found a magic hat that, after its sand clock timed out, absorbed everything around it. Amidst frantic attempts to thwart Hypno's plan, Mayhem exhausted his poof powers, his ability to teleport, humorously named for the sound it makes. Raph and Leo arrived just in time to rescue April from the zombie mob, but April didn't want to escape from them. She now needed to stop Hypno's plan of disappearing the school permanently.
You gotta break Hypno's spell and free my friends! Okay, acquaintances, just free everybody!
Hypno fought back at the auditorium with his explosive cards, bladed magic wands, rabbits, and razor rings. Still, the fight was only a distraction to give April and Mayhem enough time to collect all the magic hats inside the school. When the time was right, Mayhem teleported all the hats around Hypno, then sent him skyward as the hats detonated. This daring move broke Hypno's spell, freeing the students from his hypnotic grip and thwarting his grand illusion. Hypno survived his own attack, and on his next caper, he tried to steal the power of the first witch from a museum of art and framing. His idea was to use that power to resurrect his late magical assistant, Doug. But the Turtles managed to defeat him despite being all glued together as part of a team-building exercise. I should mention that the show had a prequel comic by IDW. I'm not super convinced about its place in continuity. Still, when considered part of the same canon, the following story should happen before the Evil League of Mutants. In these stories, Hypno, under the alias Dr. JR Fake Name, offered hypnotherapy for weight loss and self-esteem. This scheme lured the Turtles, who hoped it would motivate Splinter to resume their training. But Hypno's real goal was to make people disappear, hoping to lower New York's steep rent prices. Just as the Turtles foiled his plan, Hypno was unexpectedly kidnapped by Warren Stone. Warren was part of a larger plot by Baron Draxum to test the Turtle skills. I am not convinced that Draxum would have picked Warren for this job, which is why I don't think it fits well with the show's continuity. But with or without that comic book prequel, Hypno's next appearance would be during the Evil League of Mutants episode. In this double-length story, Baron Draxum recruited some of the Turtles' adversaries like Meat Sweats, Repo Mantis, Hypno-potamus, Warren Stone, Todd Capybara, and the Sando brothers, Ben and Carl. Draxum explained that he brought them together because the Turtles were ruining his plans for yokai kind to reclaim their place in the surface world. Right after that, they broke into song. I can't wait for the Broadway adaptation of this episode. The rest of the episode went as expected, with one of the most memorable fight scenes in the whole show. I'll make a video about this episode in the future. One of the most character-building episodes for Hypno and Warren was Warren and Hypno sitting in a tree. After their last appearance, Warren was completely alone and forgotten. He felt like he had nothing until a magician turned hippo changed his life. On the other side, Hypno was alone after Doug's death, so we could say that their mutual need for companionship brought them together at just the right moment. They moved in together to become roommates and partners, as Warren started working as his magical assistant. But Warren was still using the Dark Armor Gauntlet, and when Baron Draxum needed it to bring back the Shredder, he invaded their apartment, and the fight moved onto the street where the Turtle Tank just happened to pass by.
That's not a coincidence.
Hypno was kidnapped by Draxum with the idea of exchanging him for the gauntlet. Warren betrayed the Turtles and April to regain Hypno, imagining he could get away with his roommate and the gauntlet. But it was all a trap, as Hypno was forced to mesmerize Warren to give back the gauntlet. Seeing Draxum didn't seem like he was keeping his word of not hurting Warren, Hypno asked the Turtles and April for help. He admitted to being a terrible roomie and cheating on the chores chart, even though he thought Warren pretended not to know it. They helped Hypno, and while fighting for the gauntlet and Warren, and to prevent him from being split in half, April slashed his gauntlet arm off. Draxum left with the gauntlet, and Hypno revealed that was their magic trick, as his little arm would grow back immediately. Warren didn't like losing his gauntlet, but Hypno just loved him too much to let him die. After a quick cheek kiss, they left home to make fun of game show contestants on TV. As you can imagine, this episode implied that these two characters were in an LGBTQIA+ romantic relationship, and the two quickly became fan favorites. I'll explore this relationship later in the video. Oddly enough, in their next appearance, they were competing against each other at a demolition derby. Hypno appeared again in another iconic episode of the show, The Clothes Don't Make the Turtle, which I would totally make a video about if it weren't a musical and therefore very hard to review without getting in trouble with Mr. Nick. In any case, in this story, Hypno is trying to steal Houdini's secret journals from the Magic Townhouse. But the Turtles were inadvertently thrown into the mix due to Leo's obsession with magic. He trapped the Turtles in a magical loop to take them off his side, forcing them to endlessly relive an 80s movie-style makeover montage. The loop could only be broken by embracing the power of self-love, a fitting resolution you'd expect from an 80s movie. However, the Turtles took a more straightforward approach. They destroyed the stereo controlling the loop. Donnie, who always records everything, simply played the song back to Hypno, trapping him in the makeover montage. But this loop didn't last long as he was suddenly whisked away by Big Mama. Big Mama then trapped all the people of New York inside a magical sphere and turned the city into a battle nexus, with only the Turtles fighting in it. She chained each of them to one of their villains, and in the case of Donnie, it was Hypno. They went against one of Big Mama's champions, Cortex, in a chess game. But this game had some caveats. In the case of losing, they would be kept by Cortex as chess pieces. Also, Donnie was already playing as the chess pieces, leaving everything in control of Hypno, who didn't know how to play chess. After a long time of being unable to figure out which piece to move first, Cortex got impatient, smashed the table, and accidentally dropped his king, losing. At this great moment of celebration, Hypno screamed that he was the king of checkers. Finally, Hypno and Warren were some of the few characters to return for the movie. They were working together again, stealing a mystical dimensional key for the Foot Clan from an arcane artifacts exhibit. However, they didn't ask enough questions before taking the job, and when they found out that the clan wanted to free the Krang to lay waste to the world and enslave its people, they realized their partnership wasn't all about robbing banks as they expected. Once they saw the Krang come to Earth, they ran away. Their time on screen was shortened considerably in the film's final version. Ron Corsillo and Russ Carney, staff writers of the show, published a deleted sequence with a very different take on the car chase from the beginning of the movie. Instead of a chase, it would have shown Hypno and Warren getting in to steal the artifact. Additionally, there was a concept for a visual makeover, aligning Hypno and Warren with the iconic magician duo Siegfried and Roy. The duo was famous for their magic shows, and they also happened to be a same-sex couple. I'll come back to this in a couple of minutes. Series co-creator Andy Suriano also came up with a different look for the duo in the 2044 scene, where Hypno would have had an eye patch and Warren would have been bald. Hypno-potamus couldn't be explored more because the show got cancelled, but we know that he had a human side and cared about his partners. Hypno-potamus, with his distinct New Zealand flair, often sprinkles his dialogue with Kiwi references. Let's decode some of these uniquely Kiwi phrases.
This could get messy, like me gumboots in a downy drench.
Gumboots, or rubber boots as they're known elsewhere, are a big deal in New Zealand. As many of the references are about the North Island of New Zealand, gumboots are clearly a nod to Gumboot Day, a quirky annual event celebrated in Taipei, known for its gumboot throwing competition. In it, participants throw gumboots as far as possible to win. It sounds funny, but it's a serious competition and a tourist attraction. Also, since around 5 years ago, there's been an annual mental health awareness campaign called Gumboot Friday, where people wear gumboots to walk in someone else's shoes symbolically. The funds raised with this campaign go to children's mental health services.
Oh, Wanganui.
Whanganui is a city on the North Island of New Zealand, and it's used here simply for characterization.
A classic Wellington's choice. Oh, Wellington Sunday.
This one was used when the Turtles had to pick between fighting Hypno or the Foot Clan. Wellington is the capital city of New Zealand.
Even Mount Narrarated would be envious of that explosion.
Mount Narrarated is the most active stratovolcano on the North Island of New Zealand, and it's known for its frequent eruptions, although it hasn't erupted since 1977. You've probably seen this volcano before, as it was a stand-in for Mount Doom in Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings. It's open, choice, eh? In this one, choice is slang for agreeing with someone's decision, although in this case it was his own. As we draw the curtains on our journey with Hypno-potamus and Warren, it's crucial to reflect on what their relationship brings to the table. These two, with their flair for the dramatic and hearts for the stage, naturally clicked, sharing not just the limelight, but also a deep connection. There's been much speculation about the nature of their bond. Was it romantic from the start, or purely born from mutual loss and the need for companionship? The show left us with breadcrumbs, hints of something more, allowing viewers to draw their own conclusions. Given how the partnership was forgotten after one episode, I don't think there was a clear decision to put them in a romantic relationship during the show's original run. After all, the series was pretty fluid when it came to stereotypes. But it's super clear that after the show ended, the two were officially considered a couple, as confirmed by Andy Suriano, even going to the extent of modeling them after Siegfried and Roy. Because Hypno was interested in a female hippo on his first appearance, fans had debated that he was probably bisexual. But to stay true to the nature of the show and its perhaps network-mandated decision to never put labels on anything, all you need to know is that he's happy with Warren. They're partners in crime and in life. Thanks for watching. See you in the sewers.